Are we starting
The
over?
music could be like a touch louder.
I know, we got me.
No, that's why Mo is like loud, like jamming. Alright, we're ready?
Okay.
Go.
Okay. So, like I said earlier, I'm doing mine over, like, I looked at different characters in the Odyssey. I looked at different perspectives on Odysseus, because we get the look through Homer's eyes as when he's writing it through the narrator, but it's kind of interesting to people's perspectives of Odysseus. So, hero or villain, an examination of the importance of perspective. So, like I said, in the Odyssey by Homer, he portrays the persona of Odysseus as a heroic protagonist. However, I'm sure many characters would beg to differ, and I'm going to go, in my examination, is going to go in order of plot, not so much the story, so like chronological order. So what I did is I made a series of different headlines, like this one I made up a newspaper called the Ithaca Tribune. And this is kind of based on the Trojan War, although it doesn't actually take place in the story. There's a mood of the war throughout the entire novel, or epic play, because it had just ended. And I wrote, "End this endless war. For 9 years now we have been involved in the brutal Trojan War. I ask why. Why must we sacrifice hundreds of men to fight a war which we should not even be in? Ithaca has no stake in the war, and everyday men from our great land are horrifyingly killed because King Odysseus made some deal with Menelaus. We must protest this unnecessary war. We must let the world know that we would not sit around while hundreds are needlessly killed." And then I put a picture of the Trojan battlefield, you can see there. And as I said earlier, although the Iliad tells the actual story of the Trojan War, there is a pervasive mood of the war throughout the novel. Many lives were lost, and even the spoils of the wars don't make it justified, like Menelaus in his palace or whatever. He laments the loss of some of his comrades, even though he got lots of riches and stuff from the war. Next one, I made it from the Ithacan Inquirer, which is a play off like the National Enquirer or other gossip magazines. And this one's about Penelope. And it says, gossip. While King Odysseus has been gone, rumor has it that Queen Penelope has been occupying her time with some unsavory actions. Word around town is that she's not just courting one man, but hundreds. According to her sources, she is even letting them stay in her house to drink and feast all night. One local had this to say, "All night I hear music and laughter coming from the home of Odysseus. I'm sure Odysseus would not be pleased to find out his wife is so familiar with the local men." We at the Inquirer suspect Penelope and Odysseus had several marital problems, and now that Odysseus is gone, she wants to seduce every man she can. And this plays upon the one of the themes of the Odyssey as woman as a temptress or like trickery or like a trickster or something. Although the suitors are portrayed as the antagonists in the novel, the townsfolk or people who have related to the suitors over there probably thought that Penelope was being like a seductress or trickster in this situation. Like, and that goes with the whole loom story. Like, it says, "We have men's hearts, she touched them, we agreed. So every day she wove on the great loom, but every night by torchlight she unwove it. And so for 3 years she deceived the Achaeans." Like, she is deceiving them. Like, they think that she's going to want to marry them eventually, but she really doesn't. And she could at least tell them that, so they might not stay there the entire time. She said to her, look at that story. This one I call the Cyclops Herald. The title, or the headline is, "Intruder Takes Unwanted Residence in Local Cave, Maims Owner." This is obviously about the story of Polyphemus. "Last night, shouts were heard from the residence of Polyphemus, son of Zeus. However, locals did not immediately aid the attack. When questioned why they delay insistence, one local said, Polyphemus kept yelling that nobody was attacking him. Upon further investigation, it was found out the assailant, Odysseus, son of Laertes, called himself Nobody, spelled Nohbdy. Not only did the intruder not have the courage to give his true name, he also stabbed Polyphemus in the eye. More on page 9. This event is portrayed as an example of Odysseus' like guile and his strategy, and he's the great strategist and stuff. But really, it's just him being like very prideful and hubris. Like he didn't have to go in the cave in the first place. It was kind of his fault that some of his men died because he was in there himself. Like the Cyclops was just defending his own land. It can be said that Odysseus deserves his actions on the island. He deserved, and then like from this, Poseidon cursed him ever. So all his hardships come from his act of hubris. And then I have a quote from the Nobody scene. On page 157 it says, "Out of the cave the mammoth Polyphemus roared and answered, 'Nobody stripped me. Nobody's ruined me.'" Gods and Goddesses Weekly, Dating Advice with Aphrodite. So this is about Calypso. Recently, I received a letter from a dejected lover. "Dear Aphrodite, why doesn't my man love me? Several years ago, I rescued him from a watery death at sea. I fed him, cared for him, and gave him my affection, yet he still does not love me. He seems uninterested in me, and it is killing me inside. What can I do?" Inquisitively, Calypso. And then she replies, "Dear Calypso, I feel your pain. Sometimes it feels as if we don't even exist. Men can be so selfish, not even considering our feelings. You need to give him an ultimatum. He either starts treating you right or you tell him to get out. When faced with a decision, I'm sure he will get his act together. Love, Aphrodite." And that's kind of ironic because he does not get his act together, according to her sense. And I said, Calypso is hurt by Odysseus' refusal to return love. Although it's right for Odysseus not to love her, since Odysseus is already in love with Penelope and they're married, it still hurts Calypso. Odysseus does not make it any easier when he gets physical with her and he returns that love sometimes. And the Greeks would have viewed Calypso as like a temptress or whatever, because that was one of the main themes. But Calypso is a human, or not human, but she's a being, and she's a divine being, and she does have feelings and emotions too. She's not just some apathetic and impassionate being, so it hurts her when Odysseus does not return her affections. And I have a quote. Then this is Calypso talking to Hermes. "Then all his troops were lost, his good companions, but wind and current washed him here to me." It's page 85. "I fed him, loved him, saying that he should not die, nor grow old ever in all the days to come." So obviously she tried to care for Odysseus and gave him the options for even immortality, but Odysseus still wanted to be Penelope, which isn't really bad, because I mean but it still hurts Calypso. So that's just like her perspective on it. Which is interesting. Next one is from the lands of the Phaeacians, and it says, "The prophecy comes true. Yesterday, the almost unimaginable happened. The ship returning home from Ithaca was turned into stone. Many locals were blaming Odysseus for this tragic event. One local said Odysseus knew Poseidon had it out for him, yet he still came to our land. I believe he knowingly put us in harm's way. The king, Alcinous, had this to say. My father said someday one of our cutters homeward bound over the cloudy sea would be wrecked by the god, and a range of hills thrown around our city. I never thought that Odysseus would be the one to bring the destruction foretold by the prophecy. At least our city was not surrounded by mountains. Truly a tragedy for the Phaeacian people." And then this event is a great example of the theme of fate. The boat turning to stone was fated to happen. Like earlier in the epic poem, when Alcinous was talking to Odysseus, he says that there was that prophecy, and you kind of don't think about it at all because you don't think it's that important. But then later in the book, it actually happens. Like on page 235, Alcinous says this. "This present doom upon the ship, on me, my father prophesied in the olden time. If we gave safe conveyance to all passengers, we should incur Poseidon's wrath. He said, whereby one day a fair ship named by the Phaeacians would come briefed at the god's hands, and great mountains would hide our city.